Is Eskom crooking the load shedding schedules? We speak to Samantha Graham-Maré, the Shadow Minister of Electricity for the Democratic Alliance. Welcome, Samantha.
Thanks so much for having me on your show again, Chris.
What happened the past weekend?
Well, there are sort of two different reports coming in. The one is that Eskom underreported on the load shedding, and that instead of reporting that they were load shedding at stage 8, they were actually reporting that they were load shedding at stage 6. Other news that came through this morning indicated that Joburg City Council were responsible for the load shedding and that they had overload shed in areas in Gauteng. But it's not the first time that we've had reports of underreporting on load shedding. There was actually a study that was done earlier on in the year, and out of 52 days of load shedding, it appeared that they had underreported on about 40 of those days, which means that there are a substantial number of days where they are underreporting. So they're saying we're at stage 2 and they're actually load shedding at stage 3, which is problematic.
What have you done about that now?
So I've written to the system operator at Eskom. Isabel Fick is her name. She's the head of the system operations for Eskom. So they manage the grid. They're also responsible for ensuring that load shedding happens within certain guidelines, and that the reporting on load shedding also adheres to specific guidelines. So that's their job. So we've written to them, and I've asked her if she can please investigate what is happening with respect to the load shedding and whether Eskom is underreporting. And if that is the case, why? Are they doing it deliberately to mislead people? Or has it just been a miscommunication? Or are they working within a certain band that allows them to underreport? And then also, what measures will be taken to ensure that we are getting proper feedback so that people can start to trust the process. We have a trust deficit with Eskom and with government at the moment as it is. To find out now that they are misleading us in terms of the load shedding schedules is deeply concerning.
Now, you have had time to look at Eskom's medium-term report since we last spoke. What are your biggest concerns right now going into the future?
Well, the biggest concern is that, and you will have heard when Dr. Ramokgopa has been giving his briefings recently, particularly with the big jumps, you will have heard that he's talking about our reserves, our operational reserves. And that seems to be the biggest concern, is whether or not Eskom has sufficient operational reserves to kick in when load shedding becomes problematic. So I think that's one of our problems. But I think the biggest concern I have with respect to the medium-term report is, first of all, no matter what Fikile Mbalula says, no matter what Dr. Ramokgopa says, load shedding is still going to be with us for at least another year. If you look at the medium-term strategy, you will see that there's not a single week that doesn't have load shedding predicted by Eskom. And secondly, if we don't do something now and we don't do something big, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So Dr. Ramokgopa keeps focusing on what our existing capacity is. Our existing capacity is already too little for what our needs are. And so unless we start bringing online additional supply of electricity, this country is going to be in big trouble.
Every now and then there are rumors of an impending blackout. I know that you're not panicking about that, but could you give us a realistic prediction, please?
Yeah, so we're not panicking about it, because at the end of the day, as much as we hate load shedding is the one thing that is preventing us from going into a blackout scenario, because it's managing the grid to the extent that, we don't have a complete collapse. So it's literally shutting off demand to reduce the constraints on the grid. So it could happen. I mean, it's not that it cannot happen, but it's not likely. The problem we have is that the load shedding, they're busy with public participation now on the new load shedding schedules, which take us right up to stage 16. Now, you can imagine if we are on stage 6 to 8 and we're already experiencing 10 to 12 hours of load shedding a day, can you imagine what stage 16 looks like? So they're going to have to take us to stage 16 in order to prevent a blackout if we don't do something quickly about this situation. There was another report that came out this morning with respect to the IPPs and the renewable energy that is trying to come online, and just the abject failure of the government to be able to allow this to happen because of grid constraints, because of incapacity, and because of a whole host of other things. So we've got people willing to support this system, that are willing to bring energy online, But Eskom is ill prepared and unable to do it. So we're in a lot of trouble at this stage.
Now, Samantha, you are speaking to us from a van outside public hearings. What is happening at these hearings?
So I'm one of the portfolios I serve on is the Mineral Resources and Energy portfolio, and we are busy with public hearings on the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill. This is the last province that we're doing, so we're currently in the Eastern Cape. So I'm sitting in a van in very rural Eastern Cape in Tsolo. And from here we go to Queenstown, and then on Thursday we'll be in Kwanabukhle in the metro. So the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill, part of what it is doing is driving the unbundling of Eskom and allowing for the transmission company. So it's a good bill. We don't have any major issues with the bill. It's not particularly contentious, but it addresses some of the concerns around the sort of technical elements of electricity.
Now, I remember you putting questions to Minister Gordhan about the mystery funder of the Minister of Electricity's smart meters. Have you received any answers?
No, so I haven't received any response yet, and I will definitely let you know when I do, and I'll certainly be happy to share the information. I have had people contact me from as far as Dubai after our last discussion to say that they are of the opinion that it might be the Guptas who are the mystery funders. So I thought that was an interesting take on it, and certainly something we will look into. But yeah, and there's a lot of concern around the smart meters. I've had a number of people get in touch with me since our interview to express their concern, express deep dissatisfaction with the process. So it's not something that we're going to leave. We will continue to push on it.
The Guptas, that was the last name I expected to hear. What are they saying exactly?
Well, essentially they were just saying that that they had encountered the Guptas in Dubai, seen them sort of having coffee with various role players, and that smart meters were a big element of demand-side management in Dubai, and as such felt that perhaps they were keen on transferring the technology to South Africa. So, you never know. For this government, you have no idea what will come next. So, as I say, it's just a name that's been thrown at me. We have no evidence of it, but it's certainly an avenue worth pursuing.
So are you saying there are rumors in Dubai that the Guptas could be the secret funder behind the Minister of Electricity's smart meters?
Well, that was what was passed on to me. But as I say, this could be absolute conspiracy theories at its best. But, you can never put anything past this government.
Well, on that note, I have to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me again, Chris. It's always lovely chatting to you.